3, 2, 1. Howdy, howdy, this is Mr. Potter. In today's video, we're going to talk about compressing text. And the idea of compressing text is going to be very similar to the last idea we talked about when we were compressing graphics. The idea is that we're going to look for segments of text that repeat and kind of put little markers that indicate where that repeated text is. So I'm going to start with a nursery rhyme. So I've got this. There is a crooked man and he went a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence against a crooked stile. He bought a crooked cat which caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. And part of the reason that nursery rhymes work so well, especially with little children, is that they evoke pattern, they evoke rhythm, and they evoke rhyme. So we see these repeating phrases, like I've got this a crooked that shows up here and here and here and here. It's kind of a theme for this. So that's a repeated phrase. And I think starting with a repeated phrase is an excellent place to start. So every time that I see a crooked, I can replace a crooked with number 1. So this a crooked can be replaced with the number 1, and this a crooked, and this a crooked, and this a crooked, and this a crooked. And I can't do it here because I don't have a crooked. I just have crooked. So this is going to probably be in our second step when we start looking at substituting for just words. I'm really looking for phrases, so multi-word expressions. And these are the only ones that I see that are repeated. So what I can do is I can envision my text where a crooked is labeled with the number 1, and then whenever I see a number 1, I know that that represents a crooked. So I've got a crooked is number 1, and that's number 1 and number 1 and number 1 and number 1 and number 1. Notice I don't have crooked here, but I could say that if I were to see the word crooked, I could call that number 2, and then okay, here is a number 2 that I could use. And so anytime that I see repeated stuff, I can give it a number. So number 2 is just if I see the word crooked. So these are just repeated single words. So that's what I'm looking at second here. So I've also got he. So I've got this he right here, which I'll go ahead and call 3. And there's another he right here, which is, exactly the same thing. I don't think that I can use this he to be the same because notice this he has the capital H and this just has a lowercase h. So I think that's all of the other repeated words that we have in this. So I'm going to go ahead and advance. So notice I've done crooked, which is 2, and it's replaced down here with 2. I've got he, which is 3, and it's being replaced with 3. So once I've gone through phrases and I've gone through single words that repeat, now I want to look for endings of words. So this third step is going to be looking for endings. And the thing is, endings are usually a little bit easier to find than repeated parts in the middle of a word, namely because they rhyme. So if you were to say this out loud, you would see the parts that repeat. So I've got the I-L-E in mile, and it sure looks an awful lot like the I-L-E in style. Something else that I could look at is I could look at the ouse part of mouse and compare that with the ouse part of house. And even further, I could think of the ought part of bought, the U-G-H-T, and caught. Now, it'd be really nice if the O-U-G-H-T, but, caught isn't spelled that way. So I'm looking for endings, and I'm looking to match those up. So I could label those with 4, 5, and 6 if I needed to. So once I've done this, I've looked for phrases, I've looked for individual words, I've looked at endings of words, and now I really want to look at other repetitions. So in this looking for other repetitions, I know that I've got the HE in here, in there, and there's an HE in here, and there's an HE in they, and there's an HE in together. So all of these that I've circled in this blue, they all have an HE. But they're all throughout the word. I mean, here it is the word itself, here it's near the front, here it's in the middle, here it's in the back. So I'm looking at this repetition, I see the word HE that shows up quite a bit. I could also look for the AN in and. That would be something that repeats, because I know the AN in man seems to go with it. Do I have any other ANs? I don't think I have any other ANs. So I think that's all the repetitions that I've got. There was nothing else when I went through this before that I saw any really obvious repetitions. So I've got the HE in here, in there, and I've got the AN in man that's being repeated a few times throughout. Now, keep in mind that I'm going to be replacing an entire word with the number 1. I'm going to be replacing this entire word, or this part of the word, with the number 5. And I'm replacing H and E with the number 7. So what I'm doing is I'm replacing multiple symbols. Now, multiple symbols, multiple characters, with one character. And that's important. The idea is that I should go from having more letters to having fewer letters every time I do this substitution. If all I wanted to do was substitute the letter A, like everywhere I see an A, replace it with an 8, or excuse me, not an 8, a 9, that's not going to help me out, because I'm replacing one character with another character and it's not going to give me any savings. So that's going to be a problem. And of course, I'm not going to be able to compare the lowercase a in cat or caught or against with the capital A in an. So that's not going to be an option. I'm not going to be able to reduce any of those. So let's go ahead and wipe those out. I'm not going to be able to really reduce any punctuation here either, because I could look at punctuation where there's two things together, but I've got an N apostrophe, I've got an E apostrophe, I've got a style, so that's an E semicolon. This is a T apostrophe. Here's another E comma. I guess I could take this and put it together with this, but there's no other real letter semicolon replacing multiple symbols with one character. So what's going to happen for our first performance task, for this performance task of this unit, is you're going to receive some paragraph, some poem, some nursery rhyme. And you're going to have to do this decomposition, this idea that you're going to be replacing phrases with numbers, so that whenever I see the number, I know I can replace that phrase. And the idea is that I should end up with something that is more condensed. In other words, it should take up less characters than what we're starting off with. Now, keep in mind the way that we've kind of gone through this is probably the best way to approach this. So keep in mind that the first thing that we did was we looked for phrases. And of course, when I mean phrases, I mean 2 or more words. And of course, you're going to see a lot of these in the poems and nursery rhymes that we're going to be doing. The second thing we're looking for is, once I've looked for phrases and gotten rid of phrases, then the next thing I want to do is I want to look for repeated words. So in other words, repeated single words. That's really what I'm looking for here. So this is where we had the crooked or he, an entire word that can be replaced with an integer. And of course, we're hoping for 2 or more letter words. So if I ever had the capital letter I or the capital letter A, both of which are words, that's not going to help me much. Once I've done that, I'm going to want to take a look at the endings of words. And for what we did, we looked at the UGHT in caught and bought, or the ILE in mile or style, or the OUSE in mouse and house. So the endings of words are going to help us as well. And once we do that, then we're looking for any other repetitions. So in other words, I'm going to be looking for other repetitions, but the key here is that it's going to be 2 or more symbols. So in other words, I could be looking for a letter, or I could see for letter and punctuation. So I'm looking for these combinations that are going to help me to make my text smaller. If I can replace multiple characters with a single digit, that's really going to help me. And one of the things that you might notice is that you may have more than 10 separate things that are being repeated, in which case you're going to want to make sure that the smaller phrases and the smaller parts, you want to make those equate with the single digits. And you want to make sure that these larger parts are going to be used for your double digits, like your 10s and your 11s and your 23s. So you're going to be using this to determine how big of a, how many repetitions you can have. And that's what you're going to be doing on the performance task for Unit 1. You're going to be doing this, and you're also going to have to write instructions so that anyone who receives your condensed code and your instructions should be able to reproduce the nursery rhyme or the poem that you've been given. So that's what we're looking for. Remember that our performance tasks are like our tests in this class. They count 60% of your grade, but they're going to help you because on the Principals AP exam, you're going to have to come up with some type of performance test, some type of document that you're going to produce. And that's our purpose here. So once again, this is Mr. Potter. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.